Can you imagine the look on someone's face when they realize the person they've been treating like trash for years is actually the one who's been bankrolling their entire lifestyle? I'm talking about that split second when everything they thought they knew just crumbles. That moment when their mouth drops open and the color drains from their face. Yeah, that moment. Write your name and the city you're from in the comments, because you're going to want to remember where you were when you heard this story. My name is Maya Rodriguez, and I'm about to tell you about the night I took back everything that was mine. Have you ever felt that sharp, stinging pain when someone you love looks at you with disgust? When your own husband treats you like you're some kind of burden he has to carry? That's been my life for the past 3 years. But let me back up and tell you how I got here. 8 years ago, I met Marcus at a charity event. He was charming, confident, successful, or so I thought. He was a real estate agent who seemed to have it all together. Designer suits, expensive watch, the whole package. We fell in love fast. Too fast, probably. Within 6 months, we were married. But here's what Marcus didn't know about me. My family owns Rodriguez Auto Group, a chain of 12 luxury car dealerships across 3 states. We're talking Mercedes, BMW, Porsche, the works. When my father passed away 5 years ago, he left everything to me and my brother, but I kept it quiet. I'd been burned before in my first relationship, dated a guy who only wanted me for my money. So with Marcus, I wanted to be loved for me, not my bank account. I told him I was just a secretary at one of the dealerships. Kept my business under my maiden name. Separate accounts. He never asked questions, never seemed curious about the details. And I thought that meant he loved me for who I was, not what I had. I was so wrong. The first year of marriage was good. Marcus was attentive, loving, treated me like a queen. But then things started to change. It started small. Comments about my clothes. "Babe, you can't wear that to my company dinner. It looks cheap." Jokes about my little secretary job that stung more than they should have. Then came his family. My mother-in-law, Patricia, made it clear from day one that I wasn't good enough for her precious son. She'd look me up and down at family gatherings, her lip curled in disgust. "Is that from Target, dear?" she'd ask, touching my dress like it was contaminated. "You know, there are outlets where you can get designer pieces for less. I'd be happy to take you shopping and show you how to dress appropriately for the wife of a successful man." His sister, Vanessa, was even worse. She'd introduce me to people as Marcus's wife. She works at a car dealership, in the office, always with that emphasis, like she was clarifying that I didn't actually sell cars because that would be beneath the family. At Thanksgiving dinner last year, she pulled Marcus aside, but I heard every word. "When are you going to upgrade, little brother? Bianca Summers is single now. Remember her from college? She's an influencer now, very successful. Has like 200,000 followers. That's the kind of woman who could help your career, not someone who answers phones." Marcus laughed it off at the time, but I saw something flicker in his eyes. Interest, maybe. Or agreement. Things got worse about 6 months ago. Marcus started coming home later and later. Networking events, he'd say, building the business. He'd smell like expensive perfume, not my cheap drugstore stuff, as his mother liked to point out, but something French and sophisticated. He started spending more money, too. Designer clothes, fancy dinners, a new watch that cost more than most people's cars. I knew because I was the one paying the credit card bills. The cards were all in my name, linked to my accounts, but he didn't know that. He thought they were joint cards, thought his success was paying for everything. I watched my money disappearing. $500 here for a designer shirt, $2,000 there for a dinner I wasn't invited to. But I didn't say anything. I was gathering evidence, screenshots of every transaction, every receipt. I knew where this was heading. Then came the day that changed everything. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I came home early from the dealership. I walked into my own house and heard voices in the living room. Marcus wasn't alone. I stood in the hallway, hidden from view, and listened. "She's so embarrassing, Bianca. I can't take her anywhere. Did you see what she wore to the Johnsons' party last month?" I had to tell people she was my assistant, not my wife. That was my husband's voice, casual and cruel. A woman's laugh, high and mocking. "I still can't believe you married her, babe. What were you thinking?" "I wasn't thinking," Marcus said. But don't worry. Once my big development deal goes through, I'm divorcing her. Then we can be together properly. You're the kind of woman I should have married. Beautiful, sophisticated, successful. Not some nobody who files paperwork for minimum wage. My hands were shaking. I felt like I couldn't breathe. But I didn't burst in there. I didn't scream or cry. Instead, I quietly backed out of my own house, got in my car, and drove. I drove for hours, my mind racing. That night, when Marcus came home, he acted like nothing had happened. Kissed my cheek, asked what was for dinner. I played along. I smiled and served him the pasta I'd made, watched him eat while texting someone under the table, probably her. And I started planning. The Rodriguez Auto Group was hosting its annual gala in 2 weeks. It's a huge event, black tie, all the major players in the luxury car industry attend. Manufacturers, dealers, collectors. This year, we were unveiling our expansion into exotic cars, Lamborghini, Ferrari, McLaren. My brother and I had been working on this deal for 2 years. It was going to be the biggest night in our company's history. Marcus knew about the gala, of course. He'd been hinting for weeks that he wanted to go. It would be great for networking, he'd said. All those wealthy car collectors, they might need real estate. I could make some serious connections. I'd been non-committal, said I'd see if I could get tickets. But here's the thing. I didn't need to get tickets. I was hosting the damn event. I was going to be on stage, giving the keynote speech as the co-owner and CEO of Rodriguez Auto Group. The week before the gala, Marcus came to me with that look on his face, the one he gets when he's about to ask for something big. We were in the kitchen. I was making coffee, acting like the dutiful wife. Maya, honey, I need to talk to you about something. He leaned against the counter, trying to look casual, but I could see the excitement in his eyes. You know that gala at the fancy hotel next weekend? The car dealership one? I kept my face neutral. Yeah, what about it? Well, I managed to get an invitation. He puffed his chest out, proud of himself, through a client. It's a huge opportunity for me, babe. All the right people will be there. I already knew he'd bought a ticket on the secondary market for $3,000. My money, of course. I'd seen the charge come through. That's great, I said, pouring my coffee. I hope you have fun. His face fell slightly. Well, here's the thing. I need to bring a +1. Someone who fits the environment, you know? Someone who can help me make the right impression. My stomach dropped, but I kept my voice steady. And you don't want to bring me. Maya, come on. Don't be like that. He moved closer, put his hand on my arm. You know how these events are. It's all about image and presentation. You'd feel out of place. All those wealthy people in their designer clothes, talking about things you don't understand. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. So who are you taking? I asked, even though I already knew. Bianca Summers. She's a business associate, has a big social media following, knows how to network. It's just business, babe. You understand, right? I looked at him. Really looked at him. This man I'd loved, the man I'd married, was standing in my kitchen, in my house, telling me he was taking his mistress to my company's event instead of me, using my money to do it. Sure, I said quietly. I understand. Relief flooded his face. You're the best, Maya. This is why I love you. You're so understanding. He kissed my forehead like I was a child. I'll make it up to you. Maybe we can go to that Olive Garden you like next week. Olive Garden. The man was spending thousands of my dollars on his girlfriend, and he was offering to take me to Olive Garden. That night, I called my brother, Antonio. Remember how you said I should tell Marcus the truth? About the business? Yeah, Antonio said cautiously. What changed your mind? I'm not telling him, I said. I'm showing him. At the gala, Antonio was quiet for a moment. Maya, what are you planning? Justice, I told him. I'm planning justice. The next few days were a blur of preparation. I had my lawyer draw up divorce papers. I contacted the property management company and had the locks changed on the house for after the gala. I moved the most important documents and jewelry to a safe deposit box. And I went shopping. I bought a dress that cost more than Marcus spent on Bianca in a month. It was a custom Versace gown, deep red, with a neckline that would make jaws drop, and a slit that went up to there. I got my hair done at the most expensive salon in the city. Makeup by a professional artist. The works. I was going to walk into that ballroom looking like exactly what I was, a woman who owned the place. The night before the gala, Marcus was practically bouncing with excitement. His tuxedo, which I'd paid for, hung in the closet. He'd been at the barber, the spa, getting ready for his big night. "What are you going to do tomorrow while I'm gone?" he asked, not even looking at me. He was checking his appearance in the mirror, adjusting his hair. "Oh, I have plans," I said truthfully. "Big plans." He wasn't listening. "That's good, babe. Maybe invite some girlfriends over, have a movie night or something." The next evening, I watched from the bedroom window as Marcus left the house. He'd hired a driver, another expense on my credit card, a sleek black Escalade. 20 minutes later, it returned with Bianca. I could see her even from the second-story window. She was tall, blonde, wearing a silver dress that probably cost a fortune. She looked like she belonged on a red carpet. Marcus helped her into the car, his hand lingering on the small of her back in a way that made my blood boil. After they left, I took my time getting ready. I had my own driver coming, but not an Escalade. I'd arranged for something special. I put on that red dress, those diamond earrings that had belonged to my grandmother, shoes that cost more than Marcus's car payment. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. Not the Maya who played small, who hid her light. This was Maya Rodriguez, CEO, businesswoman, the woman I'd been hiding for 8 years. My phone buzzed. My driver was here. I walked outside and smiled when I saw what was waiting. A Rolls-Royce Phantom from our dealership's collection, black and gleaming in the driveway. This wasn't rented. This was mine. The gala was being held at the Grand Marquis Hotel, the most exclusive venue in the city. As we pulled up, I could see the red carpet, the photographers, the crowd of wealthy attendees. This was my event, my company's night, but everyone thought it was just another industry party. I stepped out of the Phantom, and the cameras started flashing immediately. They didn't know who I was yet, but they knew expensive when they saw it. I walked that red carpet like I owned it, because technically, my company had paid for it. Inside the ballroom, it was even more spectacular than I'd imagined. Crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, past champagne and crystal flutes. And in the center of the room, the stars of the show, a Lamborghini Aventador, a Ferrari SF90, and a McLaren 720S, our new exotic line. They gleamed under the lights, roped off like pieces of art. I grabbed a champagne flute from a passing waiter and scanned the room. It didn't take long to spot Marcus and Bianca. They were near the bar, Marcus in his tuxedo looking like he'd won the lottery, Bianca on his arm in that silver dress, laughing at something he'd said. As I watched, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law joined them. Patricia air-kissed Bianca on both cheeks. Vanessa was gushing over her dress. They were treating her like she was already part of the family, like I didn't exist. I stayed on the opposite side of the ballroom, watching. Marcus was working the room, introducing Bianca to people as his associate, but the way he touched her waist, her arm, told a different story. I saw him pointing at the exotic cars, probably making up some story about his connections, his success. My brother found me in the crowd. "You look incredible," Antonio said. "Are you ready for this?" "More than ready," I told him. "Is everything set?" "Security has the envelope. Legal is standing by. And Dad's lawyer has the updated trust documents, just in case Marcus tries to claim anything." Antonio squeezed my hand. "You sure about this? It's going to be public. Really public." I watched Marcus laugh at something Bianca said, his hand now fully around her waist. My mother-in-law was beaming at them like they were the perfect couple. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The lights dimmed, and a voice came over the sound system. "Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The program will begin in 5 minutes." I made my way to the side of the stage, staying in the shadows. From there, I had a perfect view of Marcus's table. He'd managed to get seats near the front, probably paid a fortune for them. My fortune. He sat there, Bianca on one side, his mother on the other, looking so proud of himself. The MC walked on stage, a professional I'd hired specifically for this event. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Rodriguez Auto Group Annual Gala and Exotic Car Showcase. We have an incredible evening planned for you, but first, I'd like to introduce the woman who made this all possible. She's been the driving force behind Rodriguez Auto Group's expansion into the luxury and exotic market. Please welcome our CEO and co-owner, Maya Rodriguez." I heard the gasp from Marcus's table even before I stepped into the light. I walked out onto that stage in my red Versace gown, my heels clicking on the polished floor, and I looked directly at my husband's table. The look on Marcus's face was everything I'd imagined and more. His mouth literally fell open. Bianca looked confused, scanning the program like she'd missed something. Patricia had her hand over her heart, eyes wide. Vanessa had gone completely pale, but I wasn't done. Not even close. "Thank you all for coming tonight," I said into the microphone, my voice steady and strong. "For those of you who don't know me, I'm Maya Rodriguez. Along with my brother Antonio, I've had the privilege of running Rodriguez Auto Group for the past 5 years since our father's passing. We've grown from 8 dealerships to 12, and tonight, we're thrilled to announce our expansion into exotic and supercar sales." I could see Marcus trying to process this. The confusion, the denial, the slow, horrible realization creeping across his face. I saw him lean over to Bianca, whispering something. She shook her head, equally confused. "This company has been my life," I continued, "and I've learned a lot about people in this industry, about who values you for your character versus who values you for what you can give them, about who sees you as a partner and who sees you as a stepping stone." Marcus was starting to stand up. I saw security moving toward his table, right on cue. "Now, I know some of you are here tonight with your spouses, your partners, the people who support you. I want to take a moment to acknowledge how important that support is. A real partner lifts you up. They celebrate your success. They don't hide you away or treat you like an embarrassment." Patricia grabbed Marcus's arm, trying to pull him back into his seat, but he shook her off. He was staring at me with a mixture of shock and rage. Unfortunately, not everyone is that lucky. Some people find themselves married to partners who use them, who spend their money, live in their houses, drive their cars, all while treating them like they're worthless, who bring their mistresses to their spouse's company events, using their spouse's money to pay for it. The room had gone completely silent. Everyone was looking between me and Marcus's table now. Some people were starting to put it together. "Let me tell you a story," I said, and my voice was steady as steel, "about a woman who fell in love with a man who seemed successful and charming. She married him, thinking he loved her for who she was. But instead, he loved her for what she could provide, even though he didn't know he was providing it. She paid for his lifestyle, his clothes, his car, his fancy dinners. She paid the mortgage on the house he told people was his. She funded his success while he called her an embarrassment. Told people she was just a secretary who made minimum wage. Told his girlfriend that he was going to divorce her once his big deal came through." Marcus was trying to get to the exit now, pushing past tables, but security had quietly blocked all the doors. Bianca looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. Patricia's face had gone from white to red, like she was about to have a stroke. "That woman," I continued, "is me, and that man is sitting right there." I pointed directly at Marcus. "My husband, who's here tonight with his mistress, Bianca Summers, at my company's event, paid for with my money." The gasps and murmurs filled the ballroom. Phones came out. People were recording this. Marcus was shouting something, but his voice was drowned out by the noise. "I own Rodriguez Auto Group," I said clearly. "I own the 12 dealerships. I own the house my husband lives in. I own the car he drives. Those credit cards he's been using? Mine. Every dinner, every gift, every designer suit, I paid for all of it. And Marcus, if you're wondering about that big real estate development deal you keep talking about, the one that's going to make you rich, that fell through 3 months ago. I know because I know everything. I've known about you and Bianca for 6 months. I've known you were planning to divorce me, and I've been planning something too." I signaled to Antonio, who walked onto the stage carrying a manila envelope. I opened it and pulled out the papers inside. "These are divorce papers, already filed as of this morning. I'm taking back my house, my cars, my accounts, everything. Marcus, you have 24 hours to remove your personal belongings from my property. Security will be there to supervise." Marcus finally found his voice. "You can't do this! Half of everything is mine! We're married!" I smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. Actually, no. Everything is in my name, under my maiden name, established before we were married. My lawyers assure me you're entitled to exactly nothing. But don't worry, I'm not completely heartless. You can keep the clothes you're wearing. Oh, wait, I paid for those too, didn't I? Bianca stood up suddenly, her chair scraping loud in the quiet room. Marcus, what is she talking about? You said you were a successful real estate developer. You said you had money. I thought I did, Marcus sputtered. She said she was a secretary. I never lied, I said calmly. I told you I worked at a dealership. I do work at a dealership. I own them. You never asked for details. You never asked about my life, my work, my family business. You assumed I was nothing, so that's what you saw. Patricia stood up, her voice shaking with rage. This is absurd. Marcus, tell her. Tell her about your success, your properties. What properties, Mrs. Patterson? I asked sweetly. The rental Marcus has been showing as listings? Those aren't his. He works for a firm on commission. Has he told you his actual income? It's about $45,000 a year, before taxes. Not exactly the high roller you thought he was, is it? Vanessa's mouth was opening and closing like a fish. But you said you were just a secretary. You dress like someone who doesn't need to prove anything to you? I finished. Yeah, I do. I dress for comfort, not to impress my in-laws. Or should I say former in-laws. Oh, and Vanessa? That influencer you kept pushing Marcus toward? Bianca? Her followers are mostly bots. My marketing team looked into it. About 80% fake. She's been trying to sleep her way into money because her career is going nowhere. Bianca's face went bright red. Then she turned on Marcus. You told me you had money. You've been taking me to expensive restaurants, buying me gifts. That was all hers? You're just some broke loser who's been using his wife's credit cards? Our credit cards, Marcus tried. We're married. What's hers is mine. Not in a prenup, I said. I'd been so heartbroken when Marcus insisted on a prenup before we got married. His lawyer had drawn it up, protecting his assets from me. Turns out, that prenup also protected my assets from him, since everything was in my name anyway. You made sure of that, remember? You wanted to protect your assets. Well, good news. You don't have any. Security was moving closer to Marcus now. The head of security, James, was someone I'd known for years. He stepped up to the table. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. This is insane, Marcus shouted. You can't throw me out. I paid to be here. Actually, I said from the stage, you used your wife's credit card to buy a ticket to her company's event without telling her. That could technically be considered theft. Would you like me to press charges, or would you prefer to leave quietly? Marcus looked around the ballroom at all the faces staring at him. Some looked shocked, some sympathetic to me, some were openly laughing. His entire image, his whole facade of success, had just crumbled in front of hundreds of people in his industry. And every phone was out, recording every second. Let's go, James said firmly, taking Marcus by the arm. You're a crazy bitch. Marcus screamed at me as security escorted him toward the exit. You set me up. This is entrapment. No, I said calmly into the microphone. This is consequences. There's a difference. Bianca grabbed her purse and hurried after him, her heels clicking fast across the floor. Patricia and Vanessa sat frozen at the table, unsure whether to follow or stay. I made the decision for them. Mrs. Patterson, Vanessa, you're welcome to stay for the dinner you didn't pay for, but I think you might be more comfortable leaving. James, please escort the Patterson family out. Patricia finally found her voice. You vindictive little nobody. My son will sue you for everything. You can't humiliate him like this. I didn't humiliate him, I said. He humiliated himself. I just provided the venue. And as for suing me? With what money? He doesn't have any. He never did. That was kind of the whole point. As they were escorted out, Patricia still sputtering threats, Vanessa crying about her social media followers seeing this, I turned back to the crowd. They were still silent, stunned by what they'd just witnessed. Well, I said, my voice lighter now, that was unexpected. Or was it? Anyway, we have an incredible evening planned. Dinner will be served shortly, and then we'll be opening the floor for our exotic car auction. All proceeds from tonight's event will go to the Women's Empowerment Fund, an organization that helps women escape financial abuse and rebuild their lives. Because nobody, and I mean nobody, should have to stay in a relationship where they're not valued. The ballroom erupted in applause. People stood up, clapping and cheering. Some were wiping tears from their eyes. I saw several women in the crowd with knowing looks on their faces, like they understood exactly what I'd just done and why. Antonio joined me on stage and hugged me. "That was the most badass thing I've ever seen," he whispered in my ear. "Dad would be so proud." The rest of the night was a blur. People came up to me constantly, shaking my hand, hugging me, telling me their own stories of toxic relationships and financial abuse. We raised over $2 million for the Women's Empowerment Fund. The exotic cars sold for above asking price, and every news outlet in the state was covering the story by the time dessert was served. My phone was blowing up. Messages from old friends, from business associates, from people I hadn't talked to in years. But there were 3 messages that stood out. One from Marcus: "You ruined my life. I hope you're happy." One from my lawyer: "Locks changed." He showed up at the house with Bianca, and the police had to escort him away. Divorce papers served. "He's threatening to fight, but he has no grounds." And one from my mother-in-law: "You are a spiteful, evil woman. Marcus deserves better than you." I deleted all 3 without responding. They weren't worth my time or energy. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my office at the flagship Rodriguez Auto Group dealership. The exotic division is exceeding all projections. We're opening 2 more locations next quarter. My brother and I are looking at expanding into the European market. Business is incredible. And my personal life? I'm dating again, taking it slow, being more careful this time. But I'm not hiding who I am anymore. I'm not playing small to make someone else feel big. I learned that lesson the hard way. I heard through the grapevine that Marcus is working as a junior sales associate at a competing dealership. He drives a used Honda Civic that he bought with his own money for the first time in his life. Bianca dumped him the same night as the gala, once she realized he had nothing to offer her. She tried to spin the story on social media, claimed she was the victim, but the comments destroyed her. Her follower count dropped by 60%. Last I heard, she moved to another state to escape the embarrassment. Patricia and Vanessa? They tried to save face, told people I'd tricked Marcus, that I was a gold digger who'd hidden my wealth to trap him. But the prenup that Marcus himself had insisted on proved otherwise. The story they tried to tell didn't match the facts, and people knew it. You know what the best part is? I don't feel guilty, not even a little bit. Because I didn't ruin Marcus's life, he did that himself. I just stopped funding it. I stopped being the invisible support system for a man who saw me as an accessory, an embarrassment, something to use and discard. So here's what I want you to take away from my story. Know your worth. Don't make yourself smaller to fit someone else's vision of who you should be. Don't hide your light because you're afraid of outshining someone. And if someone treats you like you're nothing, believe them when they show you who they are, and walk away. Or in my case, make them walk away from everything you built while they weren't paying attention. Did you like this story? Hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to Black Queen's Vengeance for more stories of justice, karma, and taking back your power. Because we all deserve to be treated with respect, and sometimes revenge is just telling the truth in public. And trust me, nothing burns quite like the truth when you've been lying to yourself and everyone else. I'm Maya Rodriguez, and I took back my life. You can too.